Hello guys, welcome back to Archive Ryzen. In this video, I like to talk about Katya DAWNWING DPS comparison, weapon comparison, and logistic talent priority. The weapon I'm gonna compare is Katya's signature weapon Aurora Sand and Katya's free-to-play weapon Tornado. I'm gonna start from the calculation result first. If you like to see the verification of the calculation, it is provided at the end of this video. Katya DAWNWING stat I use for this calculation is Manifestation 2 stat. The weapon stat for this comparison is Tier 2 Aurora Sand, Tier 1 Aurora Sand, and Tier 5 Tornado. While the logistic talent has 14% attack percent talent and 11.8% frost damage talent. So the difference between both of these weapons is the free-to-play weapon can provide a large amount of standard skill damage increase more than the signature weapon. However, the signature weapon can provide standard skill damage taken, which is a valuable debuff that can be very effective to increase the standard skill damage. Regarding the weapon skill activation, both weapons almost have the same activation method. The only difference is, after using twice times standard skill, signature weapon only need to shoot 5 bullets to fully activate its skill, while the free-to-play weapon need to shoot 10 bullets to fully activate its skill. But you don't need to worry about it because even though the free-to-play weapon effect stacking speed is lower, it almost doesn't cause any impact to Katya's DPS as long as you play her right. Here is her total DPS. The difference between the ramp up DPS and sustain DPS is the sustain DPS is calculated by assuming her skill rotation is at her peak performance by ignoring the time spent on stacking the buff. On the other hand, the ramp up DPS includes all the action from the start of a battle until she can unleash her ultimate skill. So there is a small amount of wasted time in the beginning of a battle to deploy all the 12 crystal veins. Therefore, ramp up DPS is more accurate to represent the actual DPS. So the question is, are the signature weapon worth to pull? Yes, it's worth it. If we compare to the free-to-play weapon, the Tier 1 signature weapon can provide 32% damage improvement more than Tier 5 free-to-play weapon. And if possible, even the Tier 2 signature weapon is also worth it to pull, because there is 26% DPS improvement you can get by upgrading the signature weapon to the second tier, which is quite significant. I also see a lot of people talking about how weak and underperformed Katya DAWNWING is, how complicated her combat mechanic, and that Katya needs buff. However, I quite disagree with that, because you know, her raw DPS is already insane. That can even outperform the Walking Monster series Kasana. But why do you think she is underperforming or weak? That is because you compare her by using Angel MF as the test subject, where Angel MF has shield, which can be a huge advantage for shooting DPS operative to deal damage. Therefore, shooting DPS like Lifer Infinite Sight or Fanny Coronet can eliminate Angel MF within a second, while Katya DAWNWING struggle against the shield. Because ballistic damage can deal twice damage to shield bar, while skill damage can only deal one instance of damage to shield bar. Not to mention she hasn't had a support operative that highly synergizes with her, so it just makes sense that her team DPS is still unable to beat Cherno Enigma that highly synergizes with Enya Exuvia, and Lifer Infinite Sight that highly synergizes with Fanny Starshine. Perhaps after Marian Riptide release, Katya DAWNWING's DPS will skyrocket and power creep everyone. So it will depend on Marian Riptide's role, whether she serves as a sub-DPS operative or a support operative who can synergize effectively with Katya DAWNWING. However, based on the typical pattern of the double banner like this, usually the free operative from the second banner will come out as a support operative who highly synergizing with the DPS operative in the first banner. So I hope you don't judge her too quick just because she is underperforming when facing Angel MF. As for her gameplay, she is pretty easy to use. All you need to keep in mind is that Her standard skill has two kinds of attack: AoE attack that can deal damage up to 5 targets, and ray attack that can deal a massive damage to a single target. When you facing a group of mobs enemy, you can utilize the AoE attack by bumping yourself to a bunch of weak enemy, because the AoE attack can be very effective for dealing damage to a group of enemies that standing close together. However, when you are facing a single enemy, for example boss, please avoid bumping yourself into the boss when casting standard skill, because what you need when facing a single enemy is this ray attack, while if you bumping yourself into the enemy will cause this crystal fan to disappear, so make sure to always stay away from the enemy when you casting the standard skill to maintain the crystal fan existent. For example, when you facing boss, you can start with deploying 12 crystal fan, then start shooting until the crystal fan count drop to 3. At that point, you should stop shooting and immediately use her standard skill again until the crystal fan count back to 12. Then repeat the cycle until you can use her ultimate skill to nuke the enemy, while make sure there is 6 crystal fan present on the field. Why you should immediately using her standard skill whenever crystal fan count drop to 3, not 0? That is because we want to maintain Katya's Devo skill buff, which can affecting all type of her attack including support skill, in case you playing in co-op mode. Therefore, in order to fully utilize this buff, we need at least 6 crystal fan present on the field. This standard skill ray attack also needs 6 crystal fan available in order to maximize the damage. Additionally, always make sure to have 6 crystal fan available before casting the ultimate skill in order to trigger the ray attack immediately. That is her optimal gameplay, but please adjust it according to the boss mechanics or trait you are facing. The last thing I want to say is this. So Katya's total DPS is dominated by her skill DPS, which can contribute 85% of her overall DPS, while her shooting damage only contribute 15%. So yeah, for her temporary recommended support operative are those who can buff attack and skill damage, or debuffer who capable of applying debuff to amplify damage. For example, Acacia Kaguya who can reduce the enemy elemental resistance, Ichel the Carp who can provide attack buff, and Enya Exuvia who is a skill buffer. Unfortunately, the synergy between Katya and Enya Exuvia is lower than I thought. Due to Katya's ray attack has low hit rate, so Katya can't frequently trigger Enya Exuvia's support skill attack to fully utilize Enya's buff and debuff. Pairing with Test the Magician is also very good, due to when using Katya's ultimate skill with 6 crystal fan available on the field can really deal a massive damage in a single use. Additionally, Test can also provide some damage buff for Katya. Lastly, the upcoming Marian Riptide probably will have the highest synergy with Katya DAWNWING. So the conclusion is, her signature weapon Tier 2 Aurora Sand can provide 26% improvement than Tier 1 Aurora Sand. Meanwhile, Tier 1 Aurora Sand can provide 32% improvement than Tier 5 Tornado. In my opinion, the improvement gap is significant for both weapons, so if you like her character, like her gameplay, I highly recommend you to pull until Tier 2 signature weapon, due to Katya has the potential to become the next walking monster after Marian Riptide release. About her Logistic talent, Attack percent talent has the highest priority, where a triple S-grade attack percent talent can provide 12% damage increase, while the second is Alignment Index talent, where a triple S-grade Alignment Index talent can provide 7.65% damage increase. If you are unable to obtain both of that combination, just focus on obtaining a single attack percent talent, where a B-grade attack percent talent is better than an S-grade Alignment Index talent, and a C-grade attack percent talent is inferior to an S-grade Alignment Index talent. For the third talent is Frost damage. For the calculation verification, here it is. Here is my Katya stat, Tier 1 signature weapon. Logistic stat have 3 attack percent talent with 21% total, Manifestation 0 and 5% final damage. So if the number variety between this calculation and the actual number still within plus minus 1%, the formula in this calculation is acceptable. Here is her ultimate skill damage and her standard skill ray damage. If we compare with my calculation, the ultimate skill damage is within plus minus 1%, and the ray damage also within plus minus 1%. The standard skill AoE damage is this one, also within plus minus 1%. Her support skill is this, also within plus minus 1%. So every number is still within plus minus 1%. I hope that is enough to verify this calculation. I think that's all from me. I will upload a new videos that explain about her skill, recommended boss and anything else about her. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Cheers.